Welcome back to Stormy Tells Ghost Stories on the Girls Rock Production channel. This week we are going to continue on with our stories out of St. Augustine. We are going to be talking about the Casablanca Inn and the Huguenot Cemetery. So let's go ahead and dive into the Casablanca Inn. Rumored as one of the most haunted places in all of St. Augustine, the Casablanca Inn was built in 1914 by an architect known as Mr. Butler, and was named the Matanzas Hotel originally, which should have been a red flag for what was to come. You see, Matanza means slaughter or massacre in Spanish. The Matanza Bay, where Casablanca Inn and the Casa de la Paz we talked about last week was built, was given this name back when the conquistador Pedro Menendez established St. Augustine. He was tasked by the Crown of Spain to get rid of all the 100 or so French Protestants living on the shores of St. Augustine. He did this by slaughtering each and every one of them. Naming the hotel after this horrific act was rightfully considered to be in poor taste, so the name was changed to the Casablanca Inn. When the hotel was finished, it was ran and handed down to Miss Bradshaw, who would take care of the day-to-day duties of running the hotel and boarding house. During its earliest years, it was considered to be clean and comfortable and was known for its excellent meals, warm hospitality, and all-around family vibe. But all this would change during the financial woes of the 1920s. This is when Miss Bradshaw went from demure innkeeper to conniving smuggler. The hotel had fallen on hard times, and she was about to lose the building. So Miss Bradshaw decided to use the illegal sale of alcohol to help her pay the bills. She started shacking up with one of the smugglers and would be the main place that the Cuban smugglers would drop off their contraband in St. Augustine. Miss Bradshaw had such a stronghold on the town that even Al Capone decided to stay away. Though she was questioned by the FBI many times, she was never caught. You see, she had a system set in place to warn the smugglers when it was safe to come ashore and when they should just move on to the next port. As soon as the cops were out of the area, she would wave a lantern in one of the upstairs windows, signaling that the coast was clear. Miss Bradshaw would go on to make a small fortune in the smuggling business and was able to keep her hotel open. Despite all the rival gangs and territory battles, she died peacefully and was buried in the Huguenot cemetery. Guests at the inn today will report hearing phantom footsteps throughout the halls and feeling that someone is watching them. There is also rumored to be a mist that can be seen in different areas of the hotel. One woman took a picture of herself in the mirror to find another woman standing next to her when the photo was developed. People out of the bay and passing by the hotel at night will report seeing a light in one of the second-floor windows on clear moonlit nights. So, we will go ahead and tell the story now of the Huguenot Cemetery. Miss Bradshaw is one of the estimated 436 people laid to rest in the Huguenot Cemetery, which is the oldest public cemetery in all of St. Augustine. When St. Augustine and the rest of Florida became a U.S. territory in 1819, the only cemetery in town was the Talamato, which was strictly a Catholic cemetery. So the U.S. knew that they were going to have a cemetery to accommodate for the rest of the dead, and the Huguenot Cemetery was opened on the outskirts of town in 1821 and is commonly known as Spirit Central. Though it is named after a group of French Protestants that were prominent to the area in the 16th century and massacred by the Spanish, they are not believed to be buried there. It was taken over by the Presbyterian Church in 1832 and closed in 1884 at the same time as the Talamato. The first person buried in the Huguenot Cemetery was Johann George Huppolt, who died August 15, 1821. But it would soon have an influx of deceased buried there when the yellow fever epidemic of 1821 would hit St. Augustine, killing a large number of the town's population. One of the most famous spirits haunting the cemetery is that of a young girl who was a victim of the epidemic. One day, during the epidemic, a 14-year-old girl was dumped like trash at the old city gates. There was no ID and no one to claim her. She became just another corpse that the city had to take care of and was placed in a pauper's tomb without any rights and no one to cry by her grave. Since then, many people claim to see her ghost in a white flowing dress, floating around the trees and waving at guests at the cemetery, normally between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m. Another ghost who is frequently spotted is that of Judge John Stickney. Now, Judge Stickney died in 1882, leaving his children orphaned after his wife died a few years earlier. His children were sent to live with relatives in Washington, D.C., leaving behind the body of their father. When the children were all grown, they decided to have their beloved father's body moved closer to them in D.C. On the day of the exhumation, the gravediggers decided to take a quick break from the Florida heat. In their haste, they forgot to shut the coffin. They came back to find that thieves had stolen the judge's gold teeth. To protect their jobs, they quickly closed up the casket in hopes that no one would notice the missing teeth. But someone did notice. The judge himself. Since that day, he has been haunting the Huguenot cemetery. His tall, dark figure has been seen both day and night. He is usually walking around the graves looking for something or someone. It's believed that the judge is looking for the men that violated his grave or his missing teeth. Other reports from the Huguenot cemetery revolve around glowing orbs, flashes of light, shadows appearing behind people, and strange mists. Visitors of the cemetery have also heard the sound of a man cackling and leaves crackling and bushes moving as if someone is following behind them, only to find that no one is there. So that's it for this week's stories on St. Augustine. I hope you enjoyed this ghostly tales and will be sure to tune in next Tuesday for the next 2 stories out of this haunted city. Have a great rest of your day.